So in part one of this exercise, we created an invoice for a certain office. In my example, I chose Fairfax Dental Office. And so in part one, we created an invoice based on these items that the people that work at the office purchased. Um, so this was part one. In part two, we want to analyze these purchases from the point of view of the grocery store. Now, we were given a grocery store inventory, and we said that we're going to assume that um, the size and then the price per unit, this is going to be the cost per unit. We assumed that this is going to be, if this was to be if these prices were to be the cost per unit for each item, and we have the price, well, we can do a cost analysis. We can sort of figure out our profits and expenses and see if we're actually make money. So basically, in this given transaction, we've made a total of $430, but given our costs and given our prices that we charge, are we actually making money or not? This is what we're trying to figure out with exercise number 2. And so this exercise, or this sheet, it's going to require a little bit more work, but you have all the data that you need. Now, to create the office profile, I know I've had difficulties copying these information down, so I've provided the office profile class as a ready template to go, and you're gonna build it up from there. Basically, we've taken all the items purchased by the office, and then we're gonna break down the total cost, and we're gonna break down and we're gonna subtract it from the money that we collected. One thing about this, you have about 155 items here. It could be very difficult to find exactly which item, so you can have the rest of part of the exercise was you were required to display the brand and department. This is what happens if you're trying to sort of come up with if you're trying to see patterns in purchases. You want to look at things like department, brand. Does this office like a particular brand or item? These data or these variables can be very helpful for you. And so when you create your office profile, you want to make sure that it matches the layout of the inventory. So you notice here that we have item, brand, department, and price information, and we have the same thing here. Now, if you want to look up these items, all you have to do is go on the Home tab, and in the Editing group, right at the end, if you click on it, you're going to have Sort and Filter, and then next to it, Find and Select. If you click Find and Select, or you can click on Control F on your keyboard, by the way. If you click on Find and Select, where is it? It looks like it's not visible for me because I have this window minimized. Let me just see. Alright, there it is. So I have my window minimized for the purpose of this recording, but it's Control F or Control F, or it's going to be visible for you. Nothing to worry about. Now this tool right here, the Find tool, helps you find a specific text. And so if I want to look up the information, if I'm here, right, if my starting point is here and I want to know more information about this item here, well, I can just copy all of this. Okay, so because this is the invoice, we don't have any information about the department or the cost and other relevant information. So let me copy here, paste, and I'm basically gonna find this. I'm gonna go to the grocery store inventory, and I'm gonna click find next, and it's gonna find a match, and with that match I'm gonna be able to copy the items. Now if you're working on your desktop, this is a lot easier than working with OneDrive or Google Sheets, but this is basically how you find items if you have a long list of information. You just click Control F, or you go on find and select, you click find, and it helps you find any information that you'd like. And later in the exercise we're going to use it as well, because it also helps to replace information too. Alright, so where do we get started here? How can we let's look at the office profile, what is required of us. So we need to calculate how much money collected, and then the total cost, and then basically from there we will find the net profit. Okay, so the very first thing that we need to do is calculate the cost, right? The only missing information here is the quantity, because remember, this is an office profile of that week's purchases, right? From the invoice we go all the way to the profile. We need to do more analysis, right? So let's get started with calculating the cost. So to calculate the cost for the grocery store for each item, it costs 20 cents per ounce for this pizza, for example, and then we're selling it at a size of 30.5 ounces. So if I get my calculator very quickly, it's going to be around 30.5 times 0.20. It's going to be around $6.10. But how can we do this calculation in Excel? Well, typically you would multiply these two together. It's going to be straightforward, but because we have words here, we have 30.5 and we have this OZ, this ounce, so Excel cannot recognize these values as numbers. So what we're going to do, or what we need to do, is remove the unit here, remove these units, so we can do these calculations. And we can actually do that pretty easily. There's a tool for that. But before that, let's actually create a column right next to it. Okay, and then let's go on data. Go on the data tab, and in the data tools group there is a tool called text to columns. Now this tool, text to columns, will help you split certain cells or a column into two or maybe three, depending on some conditions. So let's see an example here. I'm gonna select this column right here. Actually, I'm just gonna select all these, and then text to column, and then it's telling me what is what's the delimiters, what is the condition that's going to divide my data on. Is it a tab, is it a semicolon, is it a comma, is it a space, or is it a custom character? Well, if you look at the data here, I mean, there's a space between each unit and a number, right? So it's basically a space. So what we can do, click text to columns, and then click space. And then if you can see here in the preview window, you can see that in one column we have our numbers, and then in the second column we have our units. And it's it will automatically divide these two information into two columns based on the space in between them. That being said, if we scroll down, you'd notice that these are separated into three columns. This is because in this instance right here, you can see that there's two spaces, right? So we're going to have to correct that. Okay, so To do that, I'm basically going to change this into just one word. I think this one too as well. There. Now, if you're dealing with, let me make this a little bit more visible. Now, if this was just one value that we adjusted, if you wanted to change, if you had a large, if you had a large if you had a large data set, it could be difficult to comb through each, if you notice here, each value and change it one at a time. So what you can do actually in this instance, you notice here that these fluid ounces, right? So what you can do in this instance is actually click on the Find tool, Control F, and in this case, what you can do is replace it. So find FLOZ, and then you can replace it with a value, FLOZ. So basically you're finding all, if you click on replace all, you're going to replace all the values in this sheet of fluid ounces with one space, and you're going to change it into this value here. If I click on replace all, you're going to notice here that it has done a total of 10 replacements. Right? If you can see here, it did it for you automatically. I'm going to undo this step, but I just wanted to demonstrate that you can sort of use the find and replace tool to replace any values in a large table. So let's go back to the original example. It looks like all of our data is separated by one space. So let's go on the Data tab, click on Text to Columns, and now we have space, right? We chose the delimiters to be a space. We have one delimiter, and you can see that our data is split nicely here. We have the numbers in one column, then the units in another column, and if we apply it, all the data is split. So we can label this column size unit, okay, and this is going to be size numbers, or we can just leave it as is. And this is going to be very helpful because if we separate the numbers by themselves, well, we can do a lot of operations. That's the whole point, right? So let's do this, and let's do it with this column. Let's do it one more time. So we go on the Data tab in the Data Tools group, Text to Columns, and in this case, well, the delimiter is not a space, right? There's no space in between them. However, there is looks like a forward slash. Is this a forward slash or a backslash? I'm not sure. But I know what it looks like. It looks like this, right? So in this case, this is going to be this character right here. And if you look at the preview window, you could notice that the numbers are split nicely here. And then the units are split into the second column. So when I click on Apply, there it is. I have my units separated into another column. Alright, so now that we have separated the units from these, well, we can calculate the true cost. We can calculate the cost per unit, right? So cost per item. Let's call it that so we don't confuse them between these two. Let's go to the Home tab. Alright, so basically the cost per item for us, for the grocery store, is going to be the cost per unit times the size, right? This is how we come up with the cost. So it's going to be the size times E2 times G2. And it makes sense. It costs about 20 cents per ounce, and we sell the whole thing as 30 ounces, 30 and a half ounces. So it costs about $6. If for that pizza. And you might be wondering, well, hold on a second, that doesn't make any sense. We're charging $5.99 for a pizza, but it costs $6.10 to make. Well, this is the point of the exercise. You know, you have to remember that these are actually not real numbers. We just assumed that this is cost per unit. So we can do this analysis. So you can basically find that number. You can find that number. So maybe you would suggest that we change the prices or find where we're missing money. That was the point of the exercise. And so if we apply autofill for the remainder of the table, we can have a cost per item. So this is going to be the cost per item, and I'm not going to be needing these anymore, right? Do I really need them? Well, not really, because I've used all of these columns to calculate this final one here, right? So what I can do is I can actually select these columns, right click, and then hide columns. It's just going to be easier for me to see and deal with. Now I'm only dealing with this data right here, because I know that it costs $6.10, for example, for this pizza, and the price that we're charging is $5.99. It's nice to have these prices next to each other to make them visible, right? So let's do that one more time. You're going to select these columns from the top here. You're going to right click, and then you're going to click hide. And it's not cut, it's not going anywhere, it's just hides them, that's all. Alright, so we have the cost per item, and we need to add the quantity, right? We need to, because this office, this dental office right here, let me Fairfax alright. This office right here purchased more than one pizza, for example. They have different quantities, right? The quantities, well, they're basically going to be these ones right here. And because the order is the same, if you notice here, the order is the same, I can just copy straightforward here. And again, you might find it a little bit challenging to actually do this. Alright, so I have my quantities for each item. Okay, so basically let's do total cost, and then let's say money collected. And these columns will hold the total cost, and this column will hold the total money collected. Since now we have the price, the cost for the grocery store, and the quantity, we also have the price that we're charging and the quantity. So we can find out how much in total we're collecting and how much in total does it cost. To do that, to calculate the total cost is going to be, it costs $6.10 per pizza. What was that? Alright, per pizza, and then we sold 22 pizzas for that transaction, for that week. So the total cost is going to be $28.10. And then the money collected, well, we charged $5.99 per pizza, and then we sold 22 pizzas, so it's going to be $5.99 times, nope, this one. Alright, so let me double check here. This doesn't feel right. Cost times quantity. Oh, this is plus. Yeah, there it is. Alright, I caught my mistake. Alright, there it is. So now I have a column with the all total cost. Let me copy the formulas down very quickly. And the money collected. And so I have the information that I need. I can change the theme here since it looks, it doesn't look even, right? There. Let me just change the headers very quickly, make them centered. And you can do any customizations you would like. It's up to you. Gonna keep it simple. Then I'm just gonna add all borders. There. Alright, this is my starting point. Okay, what do I need to do? I need to calculate the net profit, right? So I've already calculated the total cost, money collected. Let's see how much net profit are we really making. All right, so basically we have this is the total cost that it costs, and this is the money that we actually collected for that item. So it's going to be, the net profit is going to be what we have, or what we collected minus what we spent. And you're going to notice that it goes red in parentheses. That's a negative number, right? And if we apply the same rule, I mean, it makes sense. Look, if you have if you sell a pizza for $5.99 but it costs you $6.10, that's 11 cents. I think that's 11 cents loss for you, because it took you more money to actually make it. It costs you more money to actually make it than to sell it, right? And so we have a few numbers here. Some of them, they're not really making a lot of profit. Most of them are losing. But this is basically the final calculation that we had to do, right? All right, so let me just do, again, some formatting. I like to do that every now and then. Alright, so this is our conclusion. This is what we have. We've calculated our net profit for each item. We just need to add and subtract, or basically find really the total here. And I can just do net profit. So if I do something like this, and I don't want to use the wrap text. Let's say I'm just gonna dedicate this cell specifically. Here, let me make it easier. It's gonna be all of these items added up. So the net profit is actually a negative number. It's going to be minus $2.29. There. This is the number that we were after, and this is the number that that we wanted to really calculate after doing all these calculations. Okay, so now we need to visualize our data. We've came to the conclusion that although in this certain transaction we've collected $430.31, upon further analysis we've only made a net profit, in this case a loss, of $2.29. And we've done that by calculating how much each item costs, the total cost, and we got the total money collected, and we calculated the net profit or the net loss. Alright, so the second part of this assignment was, or this part of the assignment was to create a pie chart of items sold by department. So we're looking at each department here, and we're looking at the quantity that each department here. One thing to mention is that I've added a filter. If you go on data, click on filter. Let me just remove it very quickly. These are categorical data that I have. These are categories. If you notice here, I have 2 dairy. I might have more than one item in a category. So if I apply a filter, I go on data, create filter, a little tab is going to appear. If I click on it, I can sort my data in ascending or descending order. If I go on filter, I can view a certain category based, I can apply a filter. Let's say I want to only view products or items in the deli department. If I click OK, it's only going to view the items in the deli department. If I go on filter again, let's say fresh fruits, click OK, they've only ordered one item. And it's not really deleting anything, it's just viewing. If you notice here, the row is 1 and jumps to 3 and then jumps all the way to 13. It chooses only to view whatever filter I applied to. If I go back to normal, you can see that it goes back here. So I'm interested in the department and I'm interested in the quantity. Now, one thing that I have to keep in mind is that I have 2 dairy products here, right? So how can I add them together? What kind of math do I need to do? Fortunately for us, we don't have to do anything. We can just select the data and it will be calculated for us automatically. Now in the desktop application, you can just click on select the range of data, click on control and then select a separate column, and then you go on insert and then you click on pie chart and then you can create your pie chart. In the online platform on OneDrive, you can't do that. But what we can do is create a quick pivot table, and we'll be able to do that. We haven't gone in details on how to create a pivot table. We're gonna go on it in future lessons, but for now we're gonna use a quick pivot table to create our pie chart. And so let's click on in the insert tab right here. You're gonna click on pivot table. You're going to select, it's going to automatically highlight your data. You can create it on a new worksheet. We're going to create it on an existing worksheet, which is this one right here. And a location, I'm just going to click on here. So this is going to be the location of my pivot table. And the data is going to be all this here. Now I can actually condense it, but let's just click OK. Yeah. Now it's going to create a pivot table. It's basically going to create a summary of all data that we have. And we're only interested in the department and the quantity. So if we go here and we click the fields, let's say department and quantity. Now if you notice here, what it did multiple things. Not only did it summarize all my data, but it actually added them together. So one thing that we paid attention to, one of the things that we had was the dairy, for example. We had 2 products in the dairy departments, right? It's 18, it's going to be plus 5, right? If you notice here, it's added already for you, right? So we've sold a grand total of 181 items, and they are categorized based on the department in just 2 clicks. They're added for you. So this is going to be very, very helpful if you just highlight this data. You go on insert, pie chart, click on pie chart, and there you have it. So this is items sold by department. Okay, now we need to create a column chart of total sales. Now we can create another pivot table. I think it's unnecessary at this point, but we can. I think this is just the fastest and most convenient way to do it. especially with the OneDrive platform, because things just look a bit different in this platform. So I'm going to create a pivot table, select my data range, and then this is going to be the location of my pivot table. And I'm only interested in total sales by department. So it's going to be department and total sales, which is, I think, the money collected. It's how much sales we made per department. And then if I select this data, I can create a column chart there. And it looks like that because we've only made 95 cents in the condiments department, it looks very, very small. But in the refrigerated items, we've made, where's the refrigerated items? 131. Okay. And as always, we can right click, format. We can add title, chart title. It's going to be total sales by department. Right. And in the legend, we can, all right, I think this looks a lot nicer. I think this one right here, it says total, but we assume it's it should be department here. All right. So it's going to be something like this. A max of 130. We can create, in the data labels, we can create the value, so we can have the actual money laid on top. Alright, and that's, I think that should be it. And so basically, these questions you can answer on your own. You don't need any help with these questions based on all the data that you've collected already. You have all your data laid out, all the summaries laid out here for you visually, and so you can answer these questions pretty easily since you have all these data with you. Alright, I think that should end it for now. I mean, this exercise was very, very technical, but it's a very, very helpful exercise to sort of grasp some of the tools that you have at your disposal when you're working with Excel.